IVM.
Hey everyone, welcome to Shunya One, episode 154. How are you doing, Amit? And
I'm
happy
doing
Diwali to you.
happy Diwali to you as well, man. I'm really looking forward to the festive season, I think, this year.
Yeah, yeah. Is it
Yeah,
just the long weekend and holidays?
pretty much.
Or
Pretty much. I like the fact that Diwali this year is a 4-day holiday. That makes me
uh-huh,
happy.
uh-huh.
I
Yeah,
need more 4-day holidays.
don't we all? I mean, but there's also like I know you went visiting the new office this week, so
Yes,
there's a lot of
i-
stuff happening
there
in
is a lot of stuff
the
happening.
real world.
So, but actually, by the time this episode comes out, we are in office full time, right? I've already been going for the last 3 days, so I
Mm-hmm,
feel like I'm already there. I went Friday, I
mm-hmm.
went Monday, I went Tuesday, and I'm hoping that we should start recording soon. It's been a year and a half since I've
Nice,
seen you in person. It would be good
nice.
to
Yes.
kind of have you come and like make fun of my Diet Coke consumption in the office again. I think that we're
Of
missing that.
course, of
I
course,
will make
of
fun of
course.
your radio voice in front of when you're in front of the mic, and we shall have some fun.
Absolutely. Let's hope guests also show up and it's not just us then.
Oh,
But
yeah, that's true. No, but
but
in
phase one, we'll
phase one, exactly,
we'll
right? At
get
least
started.
we
We'll
can
get
be there,
started.
and we can get somebody else to come and talk to
Yeah,
us from outside, right? But at least we can get
yeah.
started. Yeah,
I know, I know. It'll be
yeah,
fun, man. And I mean, on that note, today's conversation is a real fun one.
it
We're
is.
talking to Rajat Shikhar, the co-founder of Dealshare. I've actually had the privilege of knowing him, from before he jumped on board here. And what these guys are doing is amazing, right? They're looking at
It's
e-commerce through a whole different lens,
yeah,
uh,
just like
different
it's out.
dynamic.
The way that they're looking at it is just completely like it really was a eye-opening conversation because we feel like we know general goods e-commerce, right? That feels that's a
Yeah,
subject that's 25 years old now. It feels familiar to us, right? But the way these guys are approaching it is something that I was really
and
kind of impressed with,
very
right?
unique to India, the
Yeah.
tier two, tier three, tier four India that's
Hmm.
now coming up. So a lot of insights, a lot of a fun conversation with Rajat here today. So let's take a quick break and jump right in.
I was just thinking about how fascinating it was to watch AI evolve from the technology of the future to the technology that powers today. Real world applications of AI are now solving complex problems, making processes more efficient and creating new realities. From chatbots to smart shopping to personalized healthcare and autonomous cars, AI is changing the way we live, work, travel, and do business. Intel makes AI more flexible through the platform's innovations and an unparalleled choice of domain specific AI accelerators for those pushing the limits. Intel CPUs with built in AI acceleration are now fastest for most AI workloads. And with innovative memory, storage, connectivity, and security technologies on the same platform, you can wrangle larger, more distributed, and more confidential data sets. Wonderful, isn't it? To discover more about Intel AI and its applications in your industry, visit intel.in.
Hey Rajat, how are you doing? Welcome to Shunya One.
Hi Sheila, how are you? All great.
I am good. I am good, and so good to have you finally after like I think knowing each other for a long time, and of course
Yeah,
trying to coordinate some time for
yeah,
this
yeah.
for a long time as well.
Thanks a lot for having me. And yeah, it's been some time knowing you. So yeah, we have had our own ups and downs through last 3 years of working
Correct.
together.
Correct, correct,
Yeah,
correct. And of course, with Dealshare, of course, you guys have been, from the early days to now where you are. There's been so much of a dramatic shift in, let's say, the scale at which you guys are operating. So
okay.
it's good that while I've been chasing you to, let's say, come and talk to me on the show, I think every time I've gone back, you guys have reached some scale, some new milestone, or so
Yeah,
it
yeah.
seems.
I don't know. By the time this publishes, where we are.
Exactly, exactly. That
So
could be a
yeah,
whole
yeah,
different thing. But
yeah.
Rajat, could you give us, let's say, the whole background, your personal story maybe, and how you came to obviously start Dealshare, and of course I do know a little bit about where you guys started, which was way in Jaipur. So I'd love to hear also about that and how that experience was.
Sure. So I'm primarily a product guy, like last 11 years being spent with startups and primarily in the product domain. I was part of Myntra, Jabong, and Food Panda kind of companies. And this is my third company as a co-founder. So yeah, so I have spent like more than a decade building and solving problems for India and Indian consumers. And yeah, it was a phenomenal journey of a decade, which I feel got culminated in the best possible way in the form of Dealshare, uh, because last 10 years were all about solving for a particular type of audience. The whole e-commerce audience has also evolved over a period of time. It started with a very niche audience, which was only savvy young people, and then it more moved into savvy overall people in urban centers, and then now it is going to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 with all the availability of internet and the devices and cheap internet technologies. So yeah, so it is this evolution of internet users in last decade needs to be responded by a platform which belongs to this era of India, like the users who belong to tier 2, tier 3 and belong to non-savvy consumer base, who people who can use something like a WhatsApp but are still not buying something online. So this the Dealshare platform is primarily a representation of that need, which the gap that exists in the market, for catering to this kind of audience. So that was the key starting point for Dealshare and Dealshare journey. So other co-founders Vineet, Medda, and Shankar, I mean, they conceived the thought in, I think, July, August last year. Not last year, in 2018 actually, and the
Yeah.
company was started in 2019 September. I joined in December, uh,
Right.
and this whole genesis was primarily around catering to that India. And
Mhm.
if I say personally, that was exactly the time that I had given myself to explore and experiment in startups ecosystem. So that was like completing my decade in as a startup product guy, and I
Mhm.
was at the almost at the juncture where I wanted to call it off, hang my
Mhm.
boots, and look for like for some other to do something else, which is not to do with startups or something in this
Consumer
area, because
internet. Right.
I'd already spent 10 years and had done a lot of work in this area. But when the whole concept of Dealshare started, and I believe that this is exactly what I was training myself for, or waiting for in last decade. So yeah, so when these guys, like, they discussed this with me, and I was completely onboarded. In fact, they called me to Jaipur for just a, like, let's meet up. So Shankar, one of the co-founders, was my colleague from Myntra. So we
Mhm.
both of us worked together at Myntra. He was in taking care of ops there at that time. So he called up to Jaipur that, okay, let's party. So I was in Gurgaon, so I just drove down to Jaipur, and on 25th of December 2018, we just met on Christmas for partying. And then, like, on 31st New Year party night, I got my family to Jaipur, and from first I have been with Dealshare. so,
Wow.
so that's how I my onboarding happened. It was just like very quick, because I knew when I saw that this is something that will definitely connect with the audience and is superly highly relevant for the overall masses of India.
So
Yeah,
and
so,
so describe that early product a little bit. Sorry, Amit. Yeah, you were
no,
saying.
that's exactly the same question I was going to ask. And can you kind
Yeah.
of describe what you started with and what it was that you started with?
So we had some very basic principles on which we started. Like, one was that we don't know anything about the customers, so we have to unlearn a lot of things, and we don't have to necessarily replicate what has already been happened in e-commerce in general. So that was the first key principle, that we don't know anything about the customer. So we very aggressively fought all the thoughts of replicating whatever everybody else has done. whether it is in terms of cataloging, or it is in terms of experience on the platform, or it is in the terms of logistics and the focus on how do we perceive the overall CAC or unit economics, right? So we said that we'll start with a clean slate and we'll just stick to what the customers need, what works for them. We will not will put a stake in the ground in terms of who we are after as a consumer. We will be clear about that, and then we'll try to solve all the problems of that consumers. So first principles thinking, catering to an audience, which is when you're looking for that kind of audience, which is tier two, low to medium income group, which is essentially 65% of India, right? If you remove the top 5% of what mobile savvy audience and bottom 30% BPL, right? So that is the key India that we are after, which is huge, like which is a significant contributor to the GDP, but their contribution is primarily on essentials and commodities.
Right.
So relevancy in that category is by catering to that need of this audience. So we were superly clear about what we are offering to them, how we are offering them, which is like what is the platform experience going to be. So we started with a very basic. I mean, in fact, we started with WhatsApp.
Right.
We started selling on WhatsApp. We said whatever tools are there around us, we will try to use them, which are in the vicinity or access to the customers. Because our assumption was we are after a customer who can use WhatsApp but has not bought online ever. So we started with WhatsApp. That how can we start selling WhatsApp, and we met some roadblocks over there, like in terms of using that as a more of a commercial platform. So we started with a very basic app, which was nothing but a list of 20 products, and that's how Dealshare started. We and in the early days itself, like he had a huge traction in with whatever 20 products we sold at that time, because that story started connecting from day zero in terms of the relevancy of the catalog, the targeting of the audience, and experience, which is superly simple.
Look, could you illuminate that? Sorry, Shiladitya, but could you kind of give us an example of what you identified as the difference between these two types of customers?
So there are a couple of things over there, right? Like, so when it comes to catalog, a lot of so one value proposition that normally e-commerce companies would have is around a size of the catalog, right? Which is everybody touts that they have like 20,000 products or 1 million products or 100 million products, whatever, right? Like, so that is one of the value proposition that the platforms have, which has certain implications on your unit economics, your operational cost, your serviceability of that, your demand aggregation, and overall unit economies of scale. So what we had intentionally done was, because like we are catering to an audience which cannot spend a lot on frivolities. Their significant part of their earnings go into essentials and commodities. So why not aggregate around only those categories and make a relevant platform which grows fast, because it gives what everybody needs at a better price and a better convenience. So the key difference is that the catalog that we have is very basic. It has all the right representation across categories, but we will not have too much depth because it's not required. If there is a sugar which is a good quality sugar but a cheaper rate, obviously it will have an uptick. If the perceivable value of that sugar is equal to any good sugar, then people will take it, right? Like it doesn't have any more dimensions to it. It's just sugar.
Yeah.
So that like, demand aggregation for us is on a narrow set of catalog that reduces our overall cost of operations, cost of warehousing, and aggregates demand on those categories or those products. So that gives us benefit of getting better pricing from our suppliers. And so that is one difference, right? The size of the catalog. The second difference is that the catalog is very local, because in our country, every 300 kilometers, food preferences and consumption patterns change. So as you progress from one geography to another, it is very, very unique audience out there. So all the urban centers are pretty homogeneous in their consumption patterns. So
Hmm.
urban Hyderabad and urban Bangalore would have similar consumption patterns because of like cross pollination of audience, like they're coming around
Right.
from all over the world. But the moment you get 100 kilometers out of these urban centers, every location is unique in their own way. So we are basically working with a lot of local manufacturers, brands, farmers to cater to that kind of a need, which is fairly local. So that is
Okay.
the second broad level difference between the two audiences. Uh, the third is the experience part, right? Where you have uh, the last mile delivery and the app experience. So app experience, I like I said earlier, like app experience is very much into your face, clear navigation, lot of engagement on the platform, things which are very clearly overtly communicated to a certain extent also. But just to give benefit of doubt that things are not clear on the platform, right? Or they would not understand, things would not be as obvious to these users than to the other users. Uh, on the last mile delivery side of things, what we have intentionally done is we have harnessed the local delivery ecosystem instead of building things on top of it. So we have programs like Dealshare Dost Program, where we work with local micro entrepreneurs who help us do deliveries on our behalf. Like we have given them
Oh,
technology to do deliveries, and for us, but it's a trade-off, like right, like so if you are talking about a savvy urban audience, they will be comparing us to a Swiggy or a Big Basket or some similar platform.
Correct.
When you go to tier 2, tier 3, there are no examples, so you can
They don't have
see.
Swiggy or
Correct,
yeah.
correct. Plus there is convenience angle to it, right? Like if you even if you do a 24-hour delivery for something, people can wait for that long because there are no
Yeah.
alternatives. So you can do
Correct.
those trade-offs in these regions where you can control your unit economics and by providing a decent delivery experience. Uh, and that's a very important trade-off because we want to be in this business for a long term. It's a so ultimately we'll have to solve the unit economics part of it, and hence
Right.
all these trade-offs are important trade-offs to take.
Right. So, Rajat, going back to where you mentioned you started, right? You guys were in Jaipur. Jaipur, I would call Jaipur a fairly urban city today, of course. Maybe no, it's not one of the top ones yet, but it's definitely it's a very urban sort of center. Uh, what made it unique in terms of your launch as a launch city, right? That's where it's still not one of those popular launch cities for a tech startup, especially. So what made you guys sort of double down, and what was the conviction that यहाँ पे चल रहा है, यहाँ पे चलेगा, let's
Mhm.
execute here and
Yeah.
figure this out here before we sort of go to other places?
Yeah. So see, typically, a lot of the companies start from Bangalore or a Delhi or a Bombay kind of
Right.
locations. We were clear that we want to start out of a non-metro kind of a location, which
Right.
is not small enough to not experiment, to run too many experiments, and not big enough to not represent the audience that we are after.
Right.
So, a city like Jaipur definitely fit the bill that way. Plus, it is hometown of Vineet and Metas.
Mm-hmm.
So they belong to Jaipur. They are actually schoolmates and classmates also. So
Right.
it's their home ground. There's a lot of
Right.
local ecosystem which helps you when you are just starting up, and it gives you a jump start right from there.
Of course.
So
Of course.
that's made a logical sense that it fits the bill from both audience perspective as well as like local ecosystem perspective. Also, it represented kind of median in terms of you can say the the overall demographics also. While
Mm-hmm.
there are states which have better per capita income like Maharashtra, Gujarat, and then there are
Mm-hmm.
states which have much less than that. So Jaipur was somewhere in between that way. So it was kind of fitting in the size, population, demographics, like overall access to resources, local resources. So yeah, so that made a logical sense for us to start from Jaipur.
Nice. Nice. And learnings from there, you're talking about obviously 2018, 2019 was your launch year, then pandemic 2020, and we're in 21 now. So how has the scale up journey been? Obviously you guys, I mean, we've seen you, the public face of Dealshare is like you guys are scaling up, raising money, company has grown, but most of us are not consumers of your product, right? Most of us are
Mhm.
not buying all on Dealshare. So how has the scale up been, and what are the learnings been from that over the last 2 years?
Right. So you see, like I think so when we started from Jaipur, we all were always clear that we want to get to tier three, tier four. Uh,
Right.
so when we started off from Jaipur, we did not go to an Ahmedabad first. We went to a
Hmm.
Dausa, Tonk, Savai Madhopur, Kota, like
Wow.
that ecosystem.
Nice.
Hmm.
Nice.
Because we wanted to go deep into a territory and region and test it out first.
Hmm.
Because we wanted to build conviction on the cities which are beyond the tier twos,
Hmm.
Right.
because that is going to give us scale eventually. And the state capitals form, you can say, a hub for all the spokes around,
Hmm.
because most of the manufacturers, and it serves as a sourcing hub for us. So being going to a city and then spreading out from there is a typical way that we want to go about. Similarly, that's what we did in Gujarat also. We first went
Hmm.
to Ahmedabad and then to surrounding location. So that has helped us like go into a region and grow in those regions. Uh, if I say like, and every region has its own challenges and its own learnings. Uh, Depending on the savviness of the users in that region, their per capita income, things needs
Right.
to be fine tuned a bit. It cannot be just like one size fit all kind of platform or service. It's very local in nature. So the problem solving is very much at the level of a region. So we what we
Interesting.
observed was that it varies quite a bit from one state to another. The top products that they would prefer, the snacks, the kind of snacks they would prefer, the
Hmm.
the, the perception of different brands. So yeah, so one thing we have observed was there was quite a bit of variation between the audiences. But on the contrary, there was something very common also. For example, people's interest in namkeens, for example, is same in Gujarat and Rajasthan. So it
Hmm.
serves as a opportunity for taking the manufacturers or brands that work with us in Jaipur to take them to Gujarat.
Hmm.
If they can scale,
Hmm.
if they have a capacity to scale, it is a win-win for everybody. Like
Hmm.
the customers in Gujarat get a new brand for a very good price, and they get to try something new. The manufacturers get to expand into new geographies, and we get to offer something which is unique for our consumers. So, so those are some of the plays that we are exploring with all the players or the local manufacturers or producers that we work with. That we want to take them into different geographies, so which is like a shot in the arm into local manufacturing in a way. If they can
Nice.
scale with us, they can scale with us. We can take them those brands to different geographies with us.
Nice. You know, Rajat, I do want to ask a few more questions around the product itself, but before we do that, we'll take a quick break and come back and talk some more. Hey, man, how's it going?
All good, man. All this work we've been doing with Intel off late on the network and on this show particularly, it's made me really want to kind of look into the things that they've been working on, right? I mean, like, and it's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely worth doing. You think beyond making chips, right? There's a lot of stuff that they definitely are doing to support all kinds of businesses. So, yeah, really eye-opening to see the depth of what they can do.
So I was looking into some of their AI offerings, and the more time I spent reading in it, the more the more impressed I was.
Wow, it blows my mind how much they can help with putting together AI based systems, actually, whether it's reference ideas or tech, or what have you. So there's a lot that they do. What did you catch up on?
I'm going to tell you about like one particular case study I looked at, right? So there's a water utility called DC Water, and basically they built an AI system with Wipro and Intel. The system was significantly able to drop the number of inspections they had to do because the diagnostics got more powerful. What they had is they had the system which analyzed water flow, and based on that water flow that they were looking at, they were able to figure out what parts of the system were performing up to the mark and what part of the systems had problems. So instead of having to do all of these inspections constantly, they could just automatically send people out to fix the problems. And I mean, like, I was just like, this was amazing in my mind.
Yeah, and that's like an incredible use of AI in the real world. It's real and practical. I mean, just thinking about it allows you to think of, diagnostics versus maintenance at a whole different level. It's incredible. Like any others you checked out and worth going through?
Yeah, they've got a ton of case studies and examples and a whole bunch of things like that for people to look at about AI. So, you should definitely go to intel.in and check out some of these things that they have there.
Awesome. I will do. You said intel.in. Definitely going to do some reading tonight. All right. Welcome back, everyone. We have been talking to Rajat about Dealshare, of course. And Amit, you had a question, I think.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of it comes from like a couple of your different answers. It kind of makes me this question comes to mind, right? That one of the challenges that you spoke of is basically keeping your catalogs relatively smaller, in the sense of you want to kind of simplify ease and simplify operations. But you also mentioned that geography, like basically based on geography, things change quite rapidly, right? And so your catalogs are, I'm assuming, somewhat customized to geography which people are kind of coming from. How
Yes.
does that work on an operational level? I mean, like, doesn't that mean that you have like significant challenges when it comes to the actual logistical part of things? Because you have these two separate competing kind of things to competing things to take care of.
Right. So we work with, anyways, these categories are the ones where you cannot have a centralized strategy. You need to have distributed experience only. Otherwise, it will take a lot of time to do the deliveries. So
Mhm.
you anyways need to have uh, you need to provide the storage or warehousing closer to the customers for
Mhm.
all of these categories. So our sourcing is local, our procurement is local. We own all the warehousing, we own all the spokes.
Mhm.
So currently we have around 45, 50 hub and spokes across the country. And that is where the whole logic of keeping a narrow catalog helps, because we don't need huge spaces to store a relevant set of category.
Right.
And that reduces our overall carrying cost of carrying inventory.
So, how like I don't know how big a problem or how often this thing can come up, right? But let's say a friend of mine from like 300 kilometers tells me that, hey, I bought this on Dealshare, you should go get this, right? That could be a problem where it would not be available to them depending on the geography, correct?
Yeah, it would be something like a Swiggy.
I'm guessing it's very
Uh,
rare, but I'm just
yeah, yeah. No, it will be a problem like a Swiggy. Like if in a local restaurant you say that I have bought something 300 kilometers away,
Yeah.
it's
that's
not
correct.
relevant for you.
Right.
Because the catalog, see, our platform, the beauty of our platform is that it is superly configurable to a
Mm,
pin code level. Not even pin code, we have split the pin code into a smaller polygons.
mm,
At that level, we can configure the platform. So you can show to an audience coming from that small area a very different catalog, a very different pricing, very
mm.
different offers, uh, and a dedicated warehouse which is serving to it.
Oh, so pricing
Wow.
also varies significantly
It
on
can. The platform is
okay.
capable of doing that. Like if we have, but then normally what we have seen is that in a geographical region there is a city level is a good enough uh, level of homogeneity across
Right.
catalog and pricing that way. But the platform is capable of targeting a user at a pin code
So,
Wow.
so
level from
I
all the.
I remember a early. I mean, and I think that's also where a lot of, I think, the initial name of Dealshare came. What was the one of the versions of the product, or is there still a version of the product which is into this sort of group buying or sharing of deals, basically, as the name suggests?
Yeah. So the whole point about I mean, obviously, one of the things of about Dealshare's platform is its affinity to drive virality for its consumers. So
Okay.
virality could be driven at multiple levels. Virality could be driven on the basis of your product, aggressive product pricing, like, and because it is highly relevant, everybody talks about like,
Hmm.
मतलब ये यहाँ से खरीद लो, वहाँ से खरीद लो, like this is very
Hmm.
cheap. So it's a in a kind of communities and people we target, it is a common word of mouth theme, right? The
Okay.
second is the virality, which is driven by sharing the platform, right? So the name Dealshare is primarily, the genesis of it is that we want to create a platform where group buying or sharing is one of the mainstays on the platform. And we experimented at different phases of our life cycle, which is like just 3 years, on group, various themes of group buying and sharing and referral. So sharing and referral is still a very important, significant contributor to our growth overall. Group buying as a theme has been something that we have been experimenting at different stages. Even now, we are in the works of building something very interesting for audience, where we want to harness the natural way of how Indians shop with each other or together or as an audience, and how do they benefit when they shop in groups. So those themes are something which we have explored, but since we are targeting an audience which is by design non so savvy,
Hmm.
explaining to them something which is like going to a page and buying something by clicking on a buy now and checking out is one level of complexity, but sharing a deal with a friend, getting them onboarded on the platform, buying together, and realizing that they have bought is
Hmm.
kind of a task. Like, it may look very obvious for us to say that it is possible, it is easy to do, but we experimented a few times on that,
Hmm.
on those themes, and we faced a lot of technical challenges, but those are a lot of learnings from all those experiments, which we keep improving, and we know that I mean, it's very soon we will get there where we are able to harness the overall the power of group buying and group sharing and those themes.
So Rajat, I mean, there's also, I mean, this is obviously a from a theme standpoint, your guys are going after a certain audience, a certain untapped audience of India. You're making the product very simple. Your product, like you said, you spoke a lot about the user experience of the product has to be, you have to unlearn a lot of the typical e-commerce workflows that you guys built out. What other sort of secret sauce are you now embedding in the product itself? I mean, India deals with so much data. I mean, people talk about, putting AI in there and a lot of machine learning and data science and stuff like that. So is there, have you found that there's a technology as a basically as a differentiator can really crack this problem and make it sort of take you guys to the next level of growth that you're planning for?
So data is an important layer in this whole offering, because
Right.
when we are targeting 65% of India, the data that we are collecting is superly rich, um, for an audience which probably has never bought online. So that
Right.
data is can be used for monetization. For example, like, obviously there are a lot of brands who would be keen on understanding where to launch what products, or maybe test products on our platform. So that definitely is that use case. Apart from obviously the internal use cases where we can improve a lot of customer experience, engagement, personalization on the platform, or do better with our efficiency and forecasting with all the AI and machine learning that is possible. So yeah, so we are very much cognizant of the importance of data. We have at this stage we are currently in the process of building the infrastructure for it, and we understand that we need a very robust data platform in order to make sure that all our plans around data, machine learning, AI are met. So right now that stage is currently at where we are is building the overall infrastructure, which gets data in a structured way and stores data in a structured way. Because in the long run, that's superly important. We can put a lot of layers on top, and more importantly, we are looking for very strong people on the tech side to do some of those things on us. So yeah, so we are
Of course.
very superly high in a super hiring mode across all levels for various technologies. Yeah.
So, another question I had was also on the fact that, the market is also evolving very rapidly. Today, when you guys were looking at the tier 2, tier 3 of 2018 and 2019, that I think has also changed, right? The people who were the same people who you were catering to 2 years ago are themselves also evolved because of so many other factors, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you're
Pandemic being
using
one,
your
yeah.
assets. Exactly.
Pandemic
So,
has definitely changed a lot of
yeah, I,
perception.
I want to know I want to know what change that has happened for your kind of audience, because we hear from other apps, right? We hear from the apps which me and you cater to, and people talk about pandemic has accelerated growth and OTT consumption and buying and blah blah blah. But what has happened for your audience? Because that will be a very interesting
So we
understanding.
definitely got the right kind of tailwinds that uh, everybody else got, because there was a definite need for people to buy from somewhere while lockdowns was on. So yeah, so it definitely created a positive impact on our overall business and growth during those phases. Even beyond lockdowns, that growth that we got during that time sustained. So I think there was a definite shift in overall the way people consume internet-based purchases or e-commerce uh, post the two waves
Post
that
lockdown.
we went through. Yeah, to a great extent, actually. Yeah.
And has the consumer also evolved, like in their usage? Like, do you get product feedback from, let's say, the people who use your app? Do you actually say, "Acha, ye feature hona chahiye, ya isko aise badal do"? Like, what kind of feedback do you typically get for stuff like that?
So like I said, like we are very intently focused on a kind of audience which is new to internet. So
Right.
that creates us to over communicate and less complicate things. Now that may be somebody's complication, might be somebody's feature. uh,
Okay.
right? So if the audience that is coming on the platform who is more evolved and has done and seen more things uh, will definitely ask for more things. So that, but then we definitely do a lot of research with our uh, focused groups, which basically are audience of certain type, which we believe are our target audience, to check all of those things and understand whether this is important for across all the audiences or not. If not, like we stick with the things which are simpler than complicated and more sophisticated. Uh, so we stick to things which are more obvious and straightforward, and we decide in that favor. But
So
then,
you
yeah,
choose to not, yeah, you choose to
but
not sort of build out too much too fast.
No, we are into building too much, but mostly from experimentation perspective. So we do
Right.
tons and tons of experimentation on the platform. Like we build things overnight and we test a lot of things, and every moment, even now, like there will be 5 things on homepage which will be somebody is testing on something. So we
Nice.
have a constant. So like I said, right, we always assume that we don't know anything. We are just learning.
What's your favorite
Improving.
experiment that didn't work out?
A lot of, like, I think 90% experiments don't work out.
No, but what's your favorite one that you're like, I know this is going to work, but it just didn't?
The first group buying experiment.
Hmm.
So because the whole genesis of Dealshare was that you have to make group buying work.
Ah,
Correct. Yeah, the
So,
whole name was based on that, and then
yeah.
you realize that, oh wow, it's becoming more regular e-commerce, but now we're stuck with the name.
Yeah. So
So
I don't
you
think it
that's
will
why you
become a
keep coming
regular
back.
e-commerce ever. So we actually stuck with a lot of other experiments, right? Like I mean, even today, right, there are things like price chop, which is running on the platform where people are able to share and get the price reduced by the number of users they are able to get on the platforms, things
Oh,
like those. So
okay.
we keep testing a lot of those different types of features, which increases our
Gamification, almost, you might say.
gamification. So gamification is a very important theme on our experience side, where we don't want to just add games, which we have done. Like we have had games on the platform, we have had videos on the platform, we have done all of those things. But when I say gamification, it is primarily making shopping more fun and more engaging and rewarding experience for the users. So that means like if we are able to create these virtuous loop in the journey, which helps them to get more to discover better items or better deals on the platform, and for us to improve our average daily uptick or engagement on the platform, like it's a win-win again. So gamification is a very important theme across, like we, whether it is sharing, whether it is uh, scratch cards at the end of the journey, which loops them back into the next order. So yeah, so all those things have like really improved overall presence on the platform of the users, their engagement, their retention.
Awesome. And Rajat, I have a slightly tangential question because of the domain in which you guys operate. This is not product per se, but uh, you guys sell, obviously, even commodities, right? You said, like you said, you sell groceries, so which is a large part of, I guess, the primary sort of product which you sell to your audience. So how has it been? And you sell it very locally, you said. So you sell to the tier 2, tier 3, you sell local groceries to that audience. This has been a domain which has typically been very unregulated in India, right? I mean, there have been mandis, there have been these sort of local distributors who sort of hold the price and buying power of that region. So how did you, as a tech company, sort of break into that? Especially in the new cities that you go to.
So it is not essentially the commodities that we are after. We sell brands, branded products only, but these are local brands, which
Right.
are visible and understood in those territories.
Correct.
So we don't have to sell them or over market them because they are already recognized in that territory. We just have to work with
Okay.
the local manufacturers and
So
brands. We don't do commodities as commodities. We do a alternative of it, which is more branded but local brand.
okay, but also you are, I mean, as a disruption, you are disrupting someone who used to sell there, right? You're disrupting the local, let's say, the grocery distributor, kirana store.
So
How has that happened?
even kirana stores are selling those brands, for example, because that is how they are
Right.
recognized in those regions. But we do better by aggregating the demand better for the
Correct.
entire state, for example, for that category of
So
brands.
has that ever met sort of any resistance? Is my question. Like, have kirana stores sort of said, you're putting them out of business, or how do you sort of not step on their toes while also make scaling your business? Or is there any thought around that?
So I think so. It is a very like you can say a density problem. Like every kirana has a very regional influence, right? So
Right.
we have a very high density of kirana stores in our country. Like every kirana stores cater to on an average 100 users only. So the point is that their influence is only that, which doesn't get
Hmm.
affected because the context is different. Uh,
Okay.
so same user can have different purchase behavior depending on the context. Like somebody got off the car and they want to get to their home. On the way, there is a kirana store. They saw eggs and bread and they picked it up and they went home. That's a very
Right.
different context. But that same user
Hmm.
can go online and on a Sunday afternoon order from a bunch of e-commerce platforms
Right.
and do their groceries, which are more intent-based purchases.
Yeah.
For our
Planned sort of
consumers,
groceries.
correct,
Yeah.
correct, the planned kind of. For our customers, it is primarily the excitement of deals. Like we create a lot of engagement about like that the pricing on the product, the communication on the product, that there is something being missed out upon, like that
Hmm.
kind of thing that is created by the platform, where you can even go for a general browsing, but you will find something relevant on the top two folds
Right.
only, maybe.
Right.
So that is a very different context altogether. So kiranas don't get affected in the context of I have a very immediate need and I need to just buy something, uh,
Right.
uh,
Got
which
it.
to a certain
Got it.
extent we also solve, but we solve in a better way because it comes to your home and we give you better pricing, so you can aggregate also for for a bunch of audience, and plus it is like more engaging to shop.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. No, that was a question which was in my mind because that's typically why most entrepreneurs, find it difficult to sort of go into these sort of the tier two, tier four, tier three, four, right? Where
See, also,
this is
also
the existing
the
things exist.
relevancy is very high for this category, right? Like, it is not like a travel where you buy tickets only few times in a year.
Right.
Like you buy groceries on an ongoing basis. So
Right.
if you are able to be provide good service to the customer, and because the instances or situations where they might need to buy something like that are very high in number, you just have to plug in into few of those contexts, like for few of
Correct.
those instances, for them to be your high LTV customers, like because the consumption is
Correct.
high anyways.
Correct. Got it. Got it. No, that's great to know. Uh, Amit, did you have a question, please?
No, I think uh, no, I'm good. I just
Okay.
I have no questions,
Okay,
but
I thought you did. All right, that's why I
no, no,
sort of pointed to you. No
no, no,
worries,
no.
we can come back. Or Rajat, on that note, do you want to, let's say, I know you said you guys are obviously scaling up, building your platform out, you're hiring, but for everyone listening here, where can, let's say, they reach you if they want to reach out to you, talk to you, understand more about what Dealshare is doing and all the positions you have? Where's the best place to reach you, and any other
I
shout out?
can be reached on my email. It is rajat@dealshare.in.
Awesome,
And
great.
yeah, and wherever else Dealshare is, of course, people can
Yes,
reach out.
yes, of course.
Yeah, cool. Also, I'd just like to also quickly remind everybody we would appreciate a review wherever you're listening to this, or a rating, or whatever is possible. And do let somebody know about the conversation you just heard us have with Rajat. I think it will be great for people to know that there's a company that's doing this kind of work around there. So do spread the word.
Yeah. And now, of course, you guys are in Bangalore, so you are actually where all the tech folks are. So I'm guessing you guys are scaling up your, your team there, while your ops are all over the country.
Yeah, yeah. So we have a very aggressive plan to hire people, especially in tech, and we want to set up a team of approximately 400 people very soon,
Wow.
uh, which is like approximately 10x from where we are right now, and we are looking for people at all levels, at all technologies. So yeah, so like anybody who wants to be part of a phenomenal journey, which probably is going to change how e-commerce is done in India. Uh, More than happy to help with any questions, or see explore if you can work with us.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rajat. And I'm sure, hopefully, people who are listening here will know more about what Dealshare is doing. And may or may not, people are also in their hometowns today, given the pandemic, and working from all of these other tier two and three cities. So it could be very interesting for them to even see Dealshare in their local vicinity someday.
Absolutely, we
So,
are launching in a new city every day. Like only day before yesterday, we launched into my hometown, Lucknow.
yeah.
Yeah, and just 2 days before, we launched in Kolkata. So yeah,
Awesome.
so
Nice.
Awesome.
yeah,
Rapid growth is what it is. So superb.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Rajat. This was a great chat. And of course, like I said, by the time this publishes, maybe you guys are at a bunch of more cities by then. So look
Yeah,
forward to all the good stuff coming from Dealshare. Thank you so much.
great. Thanks a lot, Shiladitya. Thanks, Abhi.
Thank you. Thank you.
IVM.